Welcome back to Toast, everybody. After a little bit of a hiatus, thanks to some inter-Quebec traveling that I was doing, I am now in studio again, recording and able to make some great content for all of you, still regarding travels that I've done previously. But I'm really excited because now that I've done a trip to Gaspésie and a few national parks here in Quebec, I am hoping to come out with, a series or at least like a few weeks worth of content based on just like my experiences and different stories that I have in, my own home country of Canada, which I just have an abundance of at this point because I've actually been to a lot of places in Canada, surprisingly. But that's not what we're talking about today. What we're talking about today is Portugal. All right, so Portugal, an amazing country. I'm guessing you guys already all know where it is on the Iberian Peninsula, right next to Spain, kind of close to Morocco as well. Um, I'm not going to talk about any of the main big cities this week. I want to talk about just how this serendipitous moment of like just getting on a bus just changed my entire trip. And this is really what happened is that when I was on my flight to Lisbon from Toronto, so like I ended up driving to Toronto and had a whole weekend in Toronto before I went to Portugal. I kind of every once in a while when you're on a plane, you notice other people on a plane. That's it's kind of a thing. There are other people on the plane, and you look at them. You have eyes. Um, but I took a bus at some point leaving Lisbon. I'm going to talk about Lisbon another time. I'll cover like the main big cities and just overarching like reasons why you should go to Portugal in case you didn't already want to go to Portugal. Um, but taking my bus from Lisbon down to the south, Algarve, which is kind of like this big beachy area where you have beaches and cliffs and it's cool, and that's kind of what everybody imagines as Portugal because, well, it's a beachy, sunny, cliffy kind of place, and it was really amazing. But what happened was when I got on this bus, I kind of just ran into somebody that I thought recognized from the plane, and that also looked like the only other true foreigner on the bus. And with my, kind of extroverted personality, I just sat next to this girl. Her name is Michelle, and ended up she was on my flight, and so we kind of just kicked it off, and it was just a beautiful like snowball from that moment that would end up becoming us traveling with each other for, I think it was 2 weeks that she had like a typical North American vacation of 2 weeks. And it was really cool because Michelle had her own like place booked in Lagos, which is where we were going, and I had like a couch surfer. And this just has to show with like so many different things that you can get while traveling, which is these little serendipitous moments of kind of saying like, okay, well, you were on my flight. Do you want to hang out? And she was cool, and she's American, from Buffalo, lives there, has all kinds of really cool art projects, and she was into street art, or is into street art, still is. Um, and it was really cool because when I got to Lagos, we parted ways a little bit, but we got each other's contact info. And I realized that my couch surfing host wasn't super social or sociable guy. He wasn't really, looking to hang out, wasn't really looking to show me around or tell me about places because he wasn't knowledgeable about his own spot, namely because he was an Irishman just living in Lagos. So, yeah, he wasn't super down to chill, which is kind of what my experience was with couchsurfers previously, even in Lisbon. But I'll get to that on another episode. What was really cool is that I'd found Michelle, so I had somebody to travel with, and it was February, so it was supposed to be really cold, and Algarve ended up being really hot. We were super lucky, and so we ended up just walking around to like the fort. They have like this small fortress in Lagos. We walked around there, and the beaches were empty. And so it was really like spectacular to have a place like Lagos all to ourselves because when I see pictures of it, when you guys post pictures of it, it's usually just bumping with people, which I'm sure is really fun as well. I like socializing and partying and meeting people on the beach and things like that, but it's really kind of like a different surreal experience to be in such a touristy location, and even just walking around the streets and the streets being completely empty. a place that's so popular, that's just like raving with tourists, at least like at this time of year, which is summer, time of recording and time of posting as well. So it's just a really cool thing that I got to experience, which was like Lagos, alone, just me and Michelle, and it gave us really cool pictures, and we had really awesome sunsets on the beach and whatever. And it's just like, what more do you want from a travel experience than like cliffs, dramatic cliffs that have like caves in them, and like at the bottom of these cliffs, instead of it being like pure ocean, you have these beaches. So like you're on the beach, and like on one side it's the ocean, so either you're left or right depending which side you're facing, and the other side is just this dramatic cliff. And it's just one of those beautiful spots that if you go to Portugal, I'm sure you'll go there, and if you've been, I'm sure you've been there as well. But all this to say, we ended up kind of planning to travel a bit together, because I said, hey, my couch surfing host isn't that great. So we ended up going to Sagres together. So Sagres is like another place in Algarve, close to Lagos. You could get there by bus. And so we decided we took the bus together, and we went there, and we got the Sagres beers so we can like cool off. And we were really lucky because, like I said, it was February, but it was 25 degrees. So we had these like really touristy locations, and we were actually like burning hot. We were like overdressed for it. And as we got to Sagres, we realized that we wanted to go to this like cape, I guess, like the edge, like this lighthouse called Cabo São Vicente, or Cabo São Vicente, which is like San Vincent Cape basically. And so we kind of like set out to walk there, and then we realized very quickly that we couldn't. But before giving up, we decided we'll still walk. And so we kind of went to these new dramatic cliffs and new beaches. And I was kind of experimenting with different photography skills that I had with my new phone. And I was doing kind of like almost like boomerangs with different things. And it was really cool because she was open to helping me like explore with that. And yeah, we had a lot of fun, and we were working our way there, just stopping at every corner because it was just like breathtaking. Like, like when you see something just so beautiful that you stop dead in your tracks, and that just kept happening to us. And the reason I'm talking about this is because I'm kind of reminded about that when I was in Gaspésie, which is eastern Quebec for those of you who don't know, just a few weeks ago, because it's just like jaw dropping that like everybody in the car was like, okay, we got to stop. We need to take pictures. And we didn't have a car. So it was just me and Michelle, and we were just there like, all right, like, I guess we're going to stop maybe. And we would have to like walk down to the beach. You're at the top of the cliff, and you see this like spectacular, white sand beach or whatever at the bottom. And you'd have to take this grueling staircase down, which as you're doing it, that you need to take that staircase up at some point. Nonetheless, it didn't, discourage us from doing it. And eventually we said, okay, let's try to get to this lighthouse. Let's try to get to what there is to see kind of close to Sagres, which is this, St. Vincent Cape. And eventually we decided, okay, we can't walk it. It's just too far. And so we were walking, and we were along the road and the cliffs, and every time a car would pass by, which was, pretty there was a lot of time between each car because it wasn't tourist season. It was February. I'll stop mentioning it. But it was cool because at some point, like the second or third car just stops for us. And it was just this Dutch couple that just decided like, yeah, we were on vacation from Holland, and we drove all the way down here, and they just picked us up and they brought us. And it's just like this whole like element of back then, 2017, I probably hitchhiked like twice in my life at that moment. And it was just cool to be able to do that with somebody else and be like, hey, at least we're like the optimal, gang for it. It was a guy and a girl. So we look like a couple. We definitely weren't, but we look like a couple, which means people are more likely to stop. And I didn't know that at the time, but it worked, and it was really cool because we got a ride really quickly. We got to the Cape, and we took these spectacular pictures with like lighthouse and dramatic cliffs. And down there were no beaches where the cliffs were, because that's really kind of I guess when you're at a Cape, you don't have the same like kind of system that creates beaches. Nonetheless, let's just get into the whole thing that I want to talk about today, which is kind of putting yourself out there when you're traveling. Sometimes you're in a situation where you're like, shit, this is not going as I expected, or I didn't know like this was going to be like this. And really what ended up happening was I met Michelle, and she kind of pushed me to become a better traveler, because I think at the time she had traveled more than I had, and she was comfortable doing things like hitchhiking, and just keep an open mind to this kind of stuff, because it is really necessary, and it really like exemplifies, it's like exponential how much better your trip could be if you just keep an open mind. And good things come to those who wait. So a little bit of patience goes a long way when you're talking about being abroad and being in a foreign country where you don't speak the language or anything. And we were really lucky, because that couple, they stayed with us while we took pictures, and they ended up driving us all the way back to Sagres, including like the probably hours worth of walking that we had done in the morning and afternoon towards the Cape. And it was cool, because then we took our bus back to Lagos, and from Lagos, like, we kind of didn't want to go back right away, and so we got some sunset beers, obviously Sagres beers, and we got some sunset beers and just drank them by these like beaches and cliffs, and I'll stop repeating it. And eventually we said, okay, like, we got to get some food. We're in Portugal, we're by the ocean, we must be able to find some fish somewhere. And so we ended up just like asking some random lady on the street, like, hey, where would you eat if you were looking for fish? And so she sends us to this little hole in the wall restaurant, which is just like, like you can't get anything more authentic than a little mom and pop shop with like this tiny square TV in the corner of the room with like whatever football game was played today or yesterday. And it was like 13 euros, and I ended up getting this whole fish. And I was just like so stoked, because it was like fish of the day. So that it's fresh, that it's probably a fish that I had never eaten before that moment, and actually possibly have never eaten since, because I still don't even know what fish it is, or I don't remember what fish it was. But it was a really cool experience, and Michelle and I really kicked it off that day and the day before, to the point where we decided, like, hey, like, you're continuing traveling, I'm continuing traveling. Let's meet up in this place called Coimbra. And Coimbra is, the object or the subject of the next episode, which is really like a great place, because it just continues on this vibe of like serendipity and just like go with the flow and see what happens. And I would probably have never gone there if it weren't for Michelle. So I have, pretty much all of next episode dedicated to her, because like it just ended up being so amazing. Nonetheless, Lagos was an amazing place. I suggest that you go there. I suggest that you, keep an open mind when you're going to Portugal. Don't only go to the Lagos and the Sagres and the Lisbon and the Porto, but try to also keep an open mind to these places like Coimbra, which I'm going to talk about in the next episode, because often we have this kind of closed idea as to like what places we want to see, or what places we need to go to, or must see places in a country, and that really limits us. And I'm not even sure if I would have gone to Sagres or Cabo São Vicente if I didn't meet Michelle. And so I'm eternally grateful for the travelers that I meet along the way, and just keep an open mind and make sure that when you're traveling, that you can and should do that. Have some nights not booked, and have some leeway or freedom to do whatever kind of just falls in your lap as you're on the road. So hopefully you guys stay tuned for the next episode. I hope that you really like this, because I really love southern Portugal. That's where they have all of those cork trees and things where they're making cork for wine and making things out of cork. Just stay tuned and stay safe out there. Toast out.